Barletta team at Linkverse, your real estate attorney, and I'm super excited to have these beautiful ladies with me today. First and foremost, Maria Leblanc from Maria Realty. Hey, Maria.
Hi, Liz. Thank you for having us.
Of course. And the one and only Lacey Faria from Cross Country Mortgage. How are you, Lacey?
I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
Of course. All right. So jumping right in, because I feel like, again, this market, we were just talking a little bit before we hit record, like the market, how it is and how, so for first-time home buyers out there, I feel like maybe just to give them a sense, an impression of like what the market's like right now, Maria. Like, what are you seeing? What's it like for a first-time home buyer to get ready?
It all depends where you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
There is a micro market and there is a micro market, because you will see in certain areas where you have like a heavy sellers market, and you will see other areas where, of course, we don't have a lot of inventory across Massachusetts, but you will see other properties just sitting in the market where you can maybe take advantage of the market in there. So you're seeing it both ways.
That's the interesting part. Yeah, about Massachusetts generally. Like, it literally could be in one town neighboring the other, and one has like no inventory, everything's coming off the shelf, but like in the next town over, you could have those opportunities.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and we're starting to see multiple offers. I think buyers are out sooner than other years. And I think that we have a lot of first-time home buyers, but they've probably been in the market for now a year. I have some of my clients that have been with me for now over a year, looking for that perfect house. And I feel those buyers are being a little bit more aggressive because they're now ready, although they're first-time home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that as well.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Well,
yeah.
that makes sense, because, and I think this is like the time where like they have maybe been in the market. Maybe last year they decided to rent, and then they're kind of kicking themselves in the butt because maybe they should have pulled the trigger back then. So I think, Lacey, people are having that conversation again, like, do I renew my lease, or do I, maybe adjust what I was going to buy something that I can just get into? Have you seen that a lot?
I have. I actually saw it more probably in the summertime, in the fall time, when people were like, okay, what's going to happen this spring? The biggest question I get is like, when does my pre-approval expire? Because maybe I do lease. My biggest advice to them is, why don't you try to lease for a short amount of time? Don't do a full year, because we're going to see a lot of changes come spring.
Yeah.
I like to try to keep my clients motivated to still buy, for obvious reasons. We work in this industry, but I don't want to see them get stuck renting and not saving for all those months
Right.
to go towards the down payment.
Well, you think of it too, like the amount of money, obviously rent has gone up, but also landlords aren't just wanting like the first rent, like the same amount of rent for security deposit plus the last month's rent, your first month's rent, like that adds up to a down payment.
Absolutely. It's so expensive. And a lot of times these buyers are getting kicked out of their apartments. The landlords are selling the property, and all of a sudden they're about to be homeless within a couple of months. So I've seen a lot of them come get pre-approved.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get them buying instead of going back to the rental market.
Yeah. And Maria, those conversations I'm sure you have every day too. It's like, where do I go? Do I renew? Do I not renew?
And I always say, if you have the opportunity of going month to month, you want to take advantage of that. Especially if you have flexibility, of course, it's a different story, but the month to month, I feel like will help you to take advantage of when the market slows down a little. So you have the opportunity to have the upper hand and maybe less competition. Actually, last year, December 24th, December 25th, I was writing offers and showing homes because I advised my clients not to even take time off. And we actually took advantage of those markets. We closed on January. You just have to be ready to strike whenever your finances are ready. You just have to be ready to strike.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I feel like, again, we touched upon it a little bit before we got on here, that like just how how challenging in certain instances the market can be. And so like what are there some like tips and tricks or something that you tend to do? Obviously every transaction and every like home is different. Every seller you're like writing your offers to are different and they have different circumstances, but is there something that you feel like has kind of been the secret sauce?
So what I have been seeing a lot in offers, and especially the offers that make it to the finish line, finish line meaning like we had other buyers. Usually if you need to do an inspection, I have seen people who waives it. If you don't feel comfortable, because I am not an inspector, at the end of the day, you have to feel comfortable, right? But we can always do a pre-inspection. I have seen some people, they put some flexibility on closing. They can either close sooner or close later. Something very popular they have made a difference is offering the seller either 10, 15 days use an occupancy to stay in the property. So I think that sometimes makes a difference. Of course, offering over asking, but not always the offer. The offers the most money is the one that wins. It's usually the one who has the most flexibility. So one of the things I do is I will communicate with the listing agent and get an idea of what this seller needs. And then I have a meeting with now the buyer and I will ask, what are your flexibilities? And let's try to make this work. So I think that's the secret sauce, just getting to know what the seller needs and match it with your flexibilities. Sometimes will be doable and sometimes it's just not worth it, you know?
Right.
There's a point in time that I always tell my people, up until here makes sense. After that, it is okay to lose sometimes.
Right. No, it's true. And I think that that's always, you know, especially if they end up doing some kind of inspection, if a buyer gets pushed to be like, to feel like they're giving too much, like that can also cause frustration and tension. So it's really a fine balance of like, you know, what are you good with? What are you not? And you do a great job of explaining that to clients because you know what the sellers want, which is always is huge because a lot of people don't do that extra investigation. That's awesome. And from, you know, Lacey, your perspective of like, again, helping Maria with the secret sauce too, because like there's aspects of what you do that are great because it helps in submitting offers. If you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there are a couple things that we're doing. One, we're pre-underwriting files. I know I've mentioned that before. Pre-underwriting is huge right now because we're getting the stressful part done. Listing sides know that everything has been checked off by an underwriter, so the likelihood of your deal falling apart is slim to none. That helps. We've been going over appraisal waivers or appraisal gaps. That helps make their offer a little bit stronger and enticing to a seller. Also, we have programs that help avoid sale contingencies if that's been a problem or if that's part of the offer. We have a couple different programs that we can offer and maybe they'll suit that program, maybe not. And then lastly, just communicating. I have a lot of great relationships with a lot of the agents in Massachusetts, in New Hampshire and New England that I will reach out to them and we'll chit chat and make them feel comfortable so that they know that I'm going to get the deal done quickly and smoothly. So it really does give a leg up in this market.
It does. Literally, it could be like one little thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because it's sometimes it's the smallest things. Because when I'm also representing sellers, I usually ask the list agent, like, what was it? Like, why these buyers? And so I always like try to hear like from their perspective, like what's kind of worked. And sometimes it's literally easy as, oh, I spoke with Lacey, or, oh, Maria prepared a very organized, clear offer and she knew exactly what like literally it can be that simple. And the other people may have the exact same, even like lender, but it's not Lacey, the same, you know what I mean? Like it's just, it's the little things for sure. I feel like, so maybe for like first time home buyers, obviously, just the process of understanding, because obviously the market and getting your offer accepted is one thing, and that's obviously important, but like actually understanding like what you're paying on a monthly basis and what that includes and like how much you're bringing to closing. Maybe you could speak a little bit to that, Lacey, because I feel like that still is something that you know, some buyers just get confused with when they see two different numbers on their final statement.
Yeah, so we go over closing costs and mortgage payment and everything twice. So I do, when I review a pre-approval with them, we go over everything. I give them a lot of details and I do it via Zoom, just so that they have a decent understanding. I don't overwhelm them on that call, but they do know what to expect. We go over what the mortgage payments includes, because we price different scenarios so that I know that they're comfortable with that, which we include homeowners insurance, we include property taxes, mortgage insurance, principal and interest, and then sometimes HOA we include in the housing expense. So they know what their payment is going to be before they make an offer. Now, once they have the offer submitted, and we're reviewing, actually review all this 3 times now that I'm thinking about it, but when we submit it, we break it down line by line. So we go over their loan amount, their payment again, because a lot of times we're locking in the interest rate at that point. Then we're breaking down the closing costs. We're breaking down lender fees. We're breaking down attorney fees. I explain them. I know you explain them as well, but I also give them the rundown on what that means. We go over prepaids. So they know exactly what they're coming to closing with when they submit the deal. I even talk about why am I blanking? Seller.
Oh, the seller adjustments between,
I don't know why I couldn't just think of the word adjustments right now, but we go over seller adjustments as well. I even talk
that's
about
huge.
adjustments. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something that sometimes they won't see until literally the very end when we get the closing package.
Right.
The initial closing disclosure won't have it. And so the seller adjustments are usually like taxes. So if the sellers have prepaid that quarter, the adjustment for the rest of the quarter as a reimbursement to the seller. Or if it's a condo, same thing. Like if they paid for the month, you're reimbursing them. So those things aren't going to appear on your initial closing disclosure from the bank, but it will on your final. But the fact that you're bringing it up is great.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll think, oh, you never told me about this. I'm like, it really has nothing to do with me, but I want to give you the heads up because it will end up on the final. And then my numbers are usually pretty spot on.
Yeah.
So we'll go over it then. And then again, right before closing, we'll go over the closing disclosure just to give them a refresher. And usually they have no questions at that point.
I love it. Yeah, it's always easy closing, you know, when it's always easy.
Make it that
So
way.
Maria, from your perspective, like when you get a client first started, what can somebody expect? Like, okay, I'm interested in buying a home. I reach out to Maria. What happens?
So the most important step is get pre-approved out of the gate. Get to know what's your absolutely bottom, what is your absolutely maximum. As Lacey say, just check what is the mortgage payments are gonna be. And before you start shopping, you get that number, not after. No. Before, because the things that I sometimes don't like is when the people think that they can afford less or more than what they can.
Yeah.
So knowing what you're capable of will put you in the best position. Get through underwriting. You want to be as strong as a cash buyer and be able to close soon if it's required. After you see all your finances, we start with the home search. The home search, I always say, hey, if you're planning to move by August, start now. Yeah. I got a text message yesterday from one of my nurses, and she's like, when should I start? I want to move in September. I'm like, now? Yeah. You want to have time to explore. You don't want to feel rushed. You want to take a sense of what you like. Do I like a big kitchen? Do I like the patio? Sometimes, especially with couples, when I sit with them, I ask them, both of them, to make the priority list. Yeah. And it's funny because usually like after a month searching or after we find that one, that priority list shifts. And somehow what was important in the beginning is no longer important. So having those flexibilities and know what is negotiable, non-negotiable when you're seeing homes, so you don't waste your time because the market moves fast, right? Um, After that, if we do the inspections, we send the paperwork for a hold on. Now I'm the one blanking. I made notes. Okay. Inspections, and then inspection is something that is so flexible too. You can get a pre-inspection. You can do an inspection for informational purposes only, especially if you're a first-time home buyer and have no background whatsoever in construction. I will never recommend you to do inspections. I've been doing them. I already closed a few transactions this year, and 3 of them had inspections.
Right.
And I negotiated, like, yes, you can still do inspections. So don't feel like you have to wait, but it's just how you go around it. Then we get an appraisal. We want to make sure, that money that you offer, Lacey will check it out. The bank is going to check out. That's the appraisal. And we want to make sure that we're not offering too much because, if you tell a seller, hey, I'm going to give you this amount of money, and then you come here, guess who's not going to be happy?
Right.
This person. And then now you have to renegotiate, and the likelihood of that closing is very high, but the seller has the right to say no, right? So appraisal is a very important step. Then you get that commitment letter, that beautiful commitment letter.
Mhm.
After that, you are good to go until your landlord. I feel like another thing the buyers rush is they want to tell everyone right away. And it's like, please don't. I mean, I usually don't have any delays, and usually things like they always go smooth,
Yeah.
but you don't want to rush things. You want to do everything
I'm
the
going to
way.
jump in on that because that's something that I love that you talk to them about, because you just never know, especially if you are at a month-to-month lease and you have flexibility, you can afford potentially, covering your rent for a month while after you've closed. Having that flexibility is huge because there are things that can come up. There could be a delay with the commitment approval, and it could just be because we're waiting on a document that no one has control over that gets delayed. And so you don't want to have, like, as soon as you got your offer accepted, let your landlord know that you're moving on that day, because there's so many things between then and closing that could happen. There could be, when we review the title to make sure that the title's clear, there could be a title issue that delays closing. So that's one thing that I always definitely talk about too, is like, you need to have a backup plan. Like, if you are going to give notice ASAP, you got to have a backup plan. Is there family you can stay with? Like, can you couch surf for a little while? Like, because it's important.
And another thing is, like, I personally, I don't know you guys, I don't like anything rushing. Like everything that goes too fast is just, it makes me ache, right? No one likes to move. Let's just be honest. I don't like to move. You don't like to move. No one does. So having those extra 15, 30 days,
Huge.
knowing that your mortgage payment is not due there, is a no-brainer. Have fun with that. That's going to be your place. Make it home. Bring one box at a time and start, like, I don't know. Like, I see it like, if you have the flexibility and you can make it work, do it.
Yeah.
If you don't, and then it's a different story. Sometimes we have to do it. We have to do what we have to do, and it can be done.
Done. Not fun. There may be tears. Stress, but no.
And you're like, okay. Oh God.
I love that you mentioned that, because that's a big question we all get, is how fast can you close? Guess what? Every lender around can close quickly right now. And no lender is going to tell you that, oh, the average time's 30 days. Guess what? 30 days is great. 30 days is awesome. It gives a lot of people time to collect their documents, or
To breathe.
maybe go look for home insurance, things like that. So if you can negotiate a nice 30-day or even a little bit more offer, great. But also, we can close quickly if you need to close quickly. But I love that you're saying you don't want to rush.
And it's so funny because, like, we've all kind of worked together for a while. Like, do you remember the times where it was like 60 days was like the normal? And now
Yeah.
60 days seems like an eternity. Like it's half a year almost.
I know. It's like, what?
It feels
60 days with that? What? No, I haven't requested a 60-day closes
years
in a
and years,
Long
long
time.
time.
Mhm. So
But
funny.
hey, and another impressive thing, and I'm sorry that I'm going off topic because something just came in my mind that I thought that was important is I am seeing more flexibility on sellers this year, 2024, these 3 months at least, than, sorry, that sidetracked me. Let me mute that. Than last year's, because I feel like I have gotten away with way more negotiation, even being in bidding wars. I have been able to negotiate stuff that maybe in 2022 and 2020 I wasn't able to between
Right.
those 2 years, right? I do believe that although there is competition, although yes, if there is a good house and there is a good price for the house, absolutely, you're gonna be ready to strike, right? But think that you have a higher chance of getting that pre-inspection, getting all those things done. So
now.
you get a peace of mind.
Now
Yeah.
we'll see in the spring how it,
We'll see in the spring.
rates drop. So like that's again, I feel like it's always just good for those to know. Like today is a good time to buy. Like regardless of what you see in a rate. I mean, obviously your situation is specific to you, but like overall, in the sense, I agree with you. The offers that I see, there's so many more with inspection contingencies. Like literally 2 or 3 years ago, if I had one inspection contingency a month, it was like shocking, you know? It was now they are more prevalent again, which is great because I'm a risk averse person as a lawyer, but you know, it's definitely a different scene. And so it's good for those who are first timers to get those offers accepted. Or even if you bought the first time around and had to waive anything and now you're ready to invest, like you're gonna get better terms than you did when you probably bought your first home a couple of years ago.
And my concern, and I'm not sure if you want to go on with this one, my concern is sell buys and how many people are waiting for that rate to be even high fives, even mid fives, anything that doesn't have a 6 up front. And I think there is what the real competition, and that's when we won't see inspections again.
Yeah,
Because it's not going to be your first time home buyer. It's going to be all these. I have 3 sell buys just waiting.
Yeah. Like
Either before election or either after elections, because they just waiting for that 5 to appear somewhere.
Because you're saying, just for clarity, you're saying like they have maybe a 3 or 4% interest rate, maybe 5%.
Exactly.
They don't want to trade that
Exactly.
rate for a
That
higher
rate for exactly like right now we're seeing, what are we seeing, Lacey? Can you please update me on the interest rate, sweetie?
We are probably mid-high 6s on the average right now.
Yeah. So we're talking about what, a point, a quarter of a point. And I feel like going for a 3, 3.5 to 5, 5.5, if you need to move, I mean, at the end of the day, people has to move, right? That jump, especially everyone predicting, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We never do, but predictions are showing that there is a huge percentage the interest rate will improve as the year goes on. And with that means that these people who are waiting to sell and buy their second homes will be out.
Yeah, that's going to be
because right now you're not seeing a lot of like upsizers or downsizers. I mean, they are, but just because they need to do it ASAP or they don't have a 3% interest rate.
Those sell buys should remember that how competitive it was when they bought their first place, and how if it's not as competitive now, you can easily call up Lacey after to refi when it does go down, and at least
I know.
But it's a hard conversation.
It's a fear. It's a fear, and it doesn't matter. Like I've been sending podcasts. I've been sending like it's when you're ready, and I think you're ready now. But I understand, and
yeah, it's hard.
But
so okay, talking about, just to wrap up, maybe either a tip, like your number one go-to tip for a home buyer, or an interesting like story of a transaction that's closed recently?
I kind of want to switch it up with an interesting transaction.
Go
Right.
ahead. Give me an inspiration.
Gosh, could I go over the years? Because I could tell you a lot.
Yeah.
I'll have to think on that. Maybe I'll start with the tip. And I always say this, don't wait, for sure. Work with the best team. Make sure you're comfortable and you trust your team. It is a team effort. We're all educating you. Ask a million questions. Don't sit on my Zoom call and just sit there and listen to me explain things. Ask questions. I love to educate. No dumb questions. Make sure you are ready to buy in the spring market. I look at my numbers because I track my leads. I track my pre-approvals apps, and it's insanely long right now. It's the longest it's ever been in my career. So I know what that's going to turn into this spring. And we want to make sure our clients are very well prepared.
I love that. And actually, I'm with you, Lacey, because when I have a client who actually asks me questions, I tell them all the time, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, thank you. Like, we are all teachers, I feel like, at heart, in a sense. Like, we're unique in that sense, because a lot of people in our business, they don't necessarily love all the questions. But I like you, like those questions. And I'm like, it's amazing how many people I talk to on the other side that I'm just like talking and they're not like, like, are you there? Do you understand? You're not asking anything. So I love also good questions from buyers. It makes my day for sure.
Agreed. Totally agree.
And I think that that's the key word is education, right? I am so crazy about sitting down and making sure you understand. And sometimes I repeat things in different ways just to make sure. Real estate is so complex and sometimes confusing, and there's so many gray areas. And I mean, making sure that the client has the best experience means that you always have to be training, that you always have to be on top of what you know and teaching them, because you are the person who gives them the tools. I always say, hey, I'm presenting you everything that we can do, and let's see what feels comfortable and work with the client, educating them so they can make their best choice.
I love that.
At the end of the day, I always say, I don't have to like the house. I'm not going to be living in there.
Right.
I don't care. But if I see something completely wrong, I will say, hey, are you sure about this? Right. But we're here to negotiate for you, to give you the knowledge, to make you understand how important this is. And once again, please don't rush.
Yeah.
As much as I love to show just one house and sell it, I don't love it. I'm like, no. It's like getting married. You don't want to just go on a date and get married. No, take your time.
Love that analogy.
Or love is blind. You don't want to get married or get proposed to behind a wall.
And I always say, I have a rule. Do not fall in love with the house, because then I cannot do my job. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love so bad in the house that you overextend yourself and you regret, or like, let's just not do that. End of the day, and that's what I tell people. You come to me because I'm gonna make it positive, because we can laugh, because even if it's bad, we need to laugh. There's nothing that we can do about it.
Yeah, right. Let's have fun doing it. Yeah. I love that perspective.
Yeah.
With that, thank you, ladies. We'll keep it positive and happy, and that you're definitely guaranteed that working with this crew, for sure. Thank you both for coming on and chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
Always.
Have a great one. Bye.